So, morning, Monday morning again. Sure, there's Mpulela. Yeah, joining. Welcome, Mpulela. Fantastic to have all you folks on here this morning. I was really hoping for a small audience this morning, so welcome all. Yeah, let's hand over to Lee to kick things off.
Well, morning everyone. I'm in my cold room again, so I'm all buttoned up here, and but hope you all had a good weekend. And so thank you to Ivan for being volunteered to share his story today. It really is the tables being turned, and but I know that Ivan has got a rich and wonderful story, and I just think he's somebody that we can relate to, and so look forward to hearing what you have to share with us, Ivan. Thank you for risking with us. And so we hand over to you to begin telling us a little bit about you.
Great, thanks Lee. No pressure then, so no pressure. If I can ask Lee or you or Trevor just to work the chat and the participants, because obviously I'm not going to be watching that. So let me get my...
between Trevor and I will do it. We sort of work as a team.
I do. Okay, that's good. Nice to know. That's if I can get this to work. So let's try. There we go. So we're going to start with that. So yeah, morning folks. Yeah. So let's see if we can get the slideshow to go. Can we? Okay, it's not going. Next, come on. There you go. There we go. It all started. Yeah, it all started the day. Now, why is it not showing me where I want to see? Technology, you know. It's when you can't practice these things, but you can't practice them when you're not on a Zoom call, so you don't know what it's going to look like. So, you know, excuse me if my head seems to bounce around a bit because I've got my presentation on the other screen. So yeah, it all started the day I was born. You know, perhaps a while before that. You know, some people might think might have started a bit before. That's my folks on their wedding day. Yeah, so just a little bit of fun to kick off. It was in a small rural town called Marandellas in a country called Southern Rhodesia. That's me and all of standard 1. I don't know what you call it these days. I think it's grade 3 or something, is it? I don't know. I forget how these things work, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. Same school, funny enough, that Lee went to, but quite a few years after me. She's much younger than I am. So and it was at we were living at the high school in Marandellas. My dad was a high school teacher on the school property, and I think I might have mentioned in one of our earlier chats that he also started a herpetology club. So there's me handling probably a brown house snake at a fairly young age. So I got to understand a little bit about nature and snakes at a very early age, and it's something that I've carried through into the rest of my life. If you don't know where this little town was, it was situated about 72 k's east of the capital of Salisbury. The strange thing is that none of these places exist anymore. In fact, by the time I turned 19, I'd lived in 4 different countries without even crossing a border. So I was born in Southern Rhodesia. In 1965, it became Rhodesia. 1979, it became Zimbabwe Rhodesia. 1980, it became Zimbabwe. Marandellas became Marandera, and Salisbury became Harare. So I've moved around a lot without moving at all. So it was an interesting and strange times I think we had in those days. And as you can see, we thought it was rather strange. That's myself, my father, and my grandfather. Early on in my life, the war had just started officially just before my 3rd birthday. But in many ways, we still had quite an amazing childhood. By the age of 5 or 6, I'd started to sail. Sailed in a little boat called an Optimist. That's not me, unfortunately. I don't have any pictures of those years. My folks being teachers weren't particularly well. My dad was a teacher. My mom had stopped teaching fairly early on to look after the family. So we didn't have oodles of money, but my folks managed somehow to scrape together the cash to buy me a wooden version of this little boat. This is a fiberglass one, which I started to sail in at a very early age. And I competed quite regularly on the dams and lakes in and around Marandellas and Rhodesia. In 1972, I actually earned my junior international sailing colours, which I was very proud about. But then the war intensified, became too dangerous to go to the dams and lakes to sail. And in any case, international sanctions had actually closed, competition down both for us in Rhodesia and in South Africa. In fact, because this particular class of boat had been brought to South Africa as well in those early years, and they just put together a competitive team, and then we all got shut down, which was a bit of a sadness. But yeah, so by the age of 9, I'd actually learned how to handle one of these things. Scary when you think about it. It's a 9mm submachine gun. Fortunately, never had to use it in any real situations. But yeah, it was one of those things. The weird thing is, it felt completely normal. Everyone we knew just seemed to take it in their stride. Just going to the shops to buy groceries. You carried firearms with you. Again, as I say, we were very fortunate in our situation. Never ran into any serious problems in those instances, but there were instances all around the country where tragedy happened as a result of the conflict. And going on holiday was a whole another kettle of fish. That's a little picture which I'll talk to you about now. But we did it. We were blessed to have an annual Christmas holiday at Nature's Valley, and for those of you who know where it is, an amazing place. It's on the southern coast of South Africa in a place called the Garden Route. We were very, very blessed and fortunate to be able to go there, as I say, annually from the year I was born, right through to much later in life. But to get there involved a 3-day car trip. So can you imagine a young family, 3 young kids, 3 days in a car. Once a year, we traveled all the way down to the southern tip of Africa and had a fantastic holiday. And that's where this picture comes into play. In the sort of 70s, the security situation in the country became pretty serious. And what used to happen is the folks going on holiday all used to congregate at a place called Fort Victoria, where we met up with an army convoy. And we used to have, many cars, all bumper to bumper like this, and you can see the nature of these vehicles. I mean, everybody had an old car. There's no new cars that were being bought in the country in those days, and we'd all collect just outside Fort Victoria. We'd have an army vehicle in the front of the convoy, an army vehicle in the middle of the convoy, and an army vehicle in the rear of the convoy, and we would travel the 280 odd Ks from Fort Victoria to Beitbridge as fast as the slowest car could go, with these army vehicles flanking us along the way. And it was quite an experience for young kids, as you can imagine. But this is just some of our pictures from the days at Nature's Valley. As I say, amazing place to spend your holidays. My mom had 2 sisters. They also each had three kids, and the families would gather every single Christmas and share our holidays. The pictures there of me with the fish, and that's my one cousin, myself and the two girls. It's my elder sister Cara and my younger sister Alison, and myself who's the middle child. Yeah, and it just, in retrospect, thinking back, it just totally amazed me how our folks actually managed to achieve this. It was sanctions, petrol rationing, forex rationing. I mean, I can recall in the late 70s, coming down south, I think each adult could get $300 Zim in foreign exchange as their annual holiday allowance. So, you can imagine a family of 5 with 2 adults in it, 600, it was Rhodesian dollars in those days, 600 Rhodesian dollars as an annual forex allowance. I think it translated in those days to about 1,200 Rand. It was really not a lot of money. And as I said, thanks to my gran, it was just made all possible. She had the house. We used to arrive to a stocked fridge. Yeah, it was crazy times. Anyway, So let's skip ahead a little bit. My final year of high school, I was awarded colours for squash. I also made the Midlands provincial squash squad, and I competed in the National Squash Championships and wound up ranking 16th in the country. It was an interesting time because, as I say, that was right towards the end of the war years, so international competition was extremely limited. But I think the top 10 or 12 of our players actually competed in the South African schools competition as well that year, and we had 3 of the top 5 players in South Africa as well. So they were pretty good sporting times, and then good sport quality that came out of a tiny little community in that country. Then, of course, came compulsory national service. It was something that all of us had to do in those years. I was one of the lucky ones, I suppose. My intake was the second last national intake before independence. So I was very fortunate and never saw any action in the veld, and so I was one of the really lucky ones. And it was an interesting experience. It was an amazing time. And funny enough, it's actually what led me to my career in a strange sort of way, because when the war ended, I got sent up to Army headquarters, and I got posted into the Army data processing unit, which was not something that I knew anything about. It was just a post that needed someone to run and be involved in, and that's what I did. And purely by chance, while I was there, one of the computer companies in the capital was offering aptitude tests for people who thought they might be interested in computers. And so I just went and took the aptitude test and did pretty well in it, but then didn't think anything further. I decided that as a job, I wanted to have a physical job, and computers certainly didn't sound like a physical job. And then I've got a picture just for Cecile. So I thought, I can't let Cecile get away with all the interesting pictures. So Cecile, this one's just for you. Yeah, so that's me at, I think, about 19 or 20. My younger sister, Alison, she was 15 or 16 at the stage, and one of my cousins, who was a couple of years younger than that, at Nature's Valley, one of our amazing Christmas holidays. So my national service ended. Came down south, started to work on the gold mines. As I said, never thought about computers in those days. I mean, we hadn't even used calculators at school, so what were computers really in those days? So I started working on the gold mines in the West Rand here, on what they called their learner official training course. But after a year of working 3.2 kilometers underground in plus 32 degree heat, almost 100% humidity, in environments like this, I decided perhaps this wasn't the career path that I really wanted to follow. I had a couple of close calls underground, and decided that if I was going to die, I'd rather do it in the sunshine than over 3 kilometers underground. So I changed my career very early on. That was at the end of my first year of working. Decided to switch it for a more comfortable environment. Became a computer nerd. Purely by chance, started working in a big computer room environment like this. Massive disk drives and things like that. You can see some of these little items over here. These are all exchangeable disk drives. They had a capacity of somewhere between 60 and 200 megabytes. Something that wouldn't even feature in our lives today, but very interesting environments. Started off at the bottom of the heap as a trainee computer operator. But while it was at Goldfields of South Africa head office, I still competed, playing squash quite regularly. I was the Goldfields squash champion a couple of times. Also played regular league in what was known as the Transvaal League in those days. There's a picture of one of the Goldfields awards days when I'd actually won the company championships. Yeah, and it was here and in Joburg and at Goldfields when I bought my first computer, and it looked like this. It was a ZX Spectrum. It was 1982 when I bought it. It had just been launched. I don't know if you can see all that detail there, but an amazing little computer. Yeah, I'd decided that I actually quite enjoyed computers. It was my first year working on computers. I bought this, and that same day I wrote my first computer program. And it was a game. It was a game based on the Mastermind board game. I don't know if any of you ever played this as kids. Quite an interesting little game where, you know, the one player sets up a color sequence which is hidden, and the other player has got to try and guess that color sequence, and the black and the white pegs indicate how well you're doing or how badly you're doing in terms of your guessing. And as I say, I bought this computer on a Saturday morning, took it home, set it up, learned how to program it. It was in a programming language called BASIC, and the next time I looked up, it was 2 o'clock on Sunday morning, and I'd managed to get this program working and playing. And it was amazing technology. So it was really cutting edge stuff. I mean, that was the computer, that was the screen that I used to plug it into a normal old television. It didn't have its own screen. That was the backup device that you stored the data on, and it was stored on one of these things, a cassette tape. It was really interesting times in technology. And if you think today, you know, you've got these things 4 million times the memory, 8 processors, each at least 1.8 million times faster, and we carry these things around in our pockets now. It's quite phenomenal how technology has changed just in a few short years. So I worked shifts in the computer room, going from trainee operator to senior operator to shift leader in the space of a little under a year. I broke all the norms and rules and regulations in that organization. This was supposed to be a 2.5 to 3 year career path, and I fought my way through the hurdles and the barriers that were put there to do this. I then transferred into software support, and this is where I started to realize the true meaning of a glass ceiling. Goldfields, being a traditional patriarchal environment, absolutely believed in the value and the strength of their graduates, especially of their Bursa graduates. I was neither a graduate nor a Bursa, and despite the fact that I'd moved pretty rapidly through the ranks, I realized that you know, my future career in this organization was going to be extremely limited. And so then I started to move out, and yeah, there's some long stories around there, but I fought the system for a couple of years, and eventually towards the end of my time there, which was fairly short, it was only just over 4 years in total. I caused such a ruckus in the department because of the disparity between non-graduates and graduates and the salary scales, that I got an entire department of over 100 people and a second annual increase in April when the main annual increase was given in January every year. Got myself an additional increase of 25% that April, and then put in my resignation and left. Didn't make me very popular with management, as you can imagine, but yeah, I couldn't work in an environment that was just so discriminatory at the time. I was training Bursas and honors graduates, and they were earning more than I was. You know, they were my subordinates, and it really just didn't work for me. So I moved out of there. But I'm going to jump forward a bit. You know, I don't want to spend too much time. So a few years forward to the big plunge. In March 8, 1989, I started my first business. It was a training and development business. In May 1989, we got married. That was where we got married, an amazing little chapel in the Drakensberg. That's my wife, Ria. It was a stunning environment to to actually get married, and we were very blessed at the time. But as I say, I just started my own business, so it was anyway. This is where things started to get really interesting. At least they were for me. So please excuse me for heading off in different directions from here. So I'm going to bounce around a bit. Obviously, things morphed in multiple different directions with new business and a new marriage and the like. So then my daughter Gal was born in 1990. That was her at, I think, at 16 days old. I don't know if any of you recognize the little box that's next to her there. It's a box of 35mm film. The days before digital cameras. I've always, since my sort of final years at school, really enjoyed photography. I was part of the photography club at school, and have had cameras pretty much ever since. But anyway, this was little Gail, and she was little. She was a tiny baby, but we weren't aware of any issues or any concerns leading up to her birth. She was born on the Thursday before Easter weekend, 1990, Thursday evening, and I'd spent time there with her and with Ria, and eventually left that evening to go home. Came back the next morning, blissfully unaware of what I was about to walk into. What I walked into was a completely distraught wife who was
a tough story. So here I go, and just coming in to take the flight panel. I'm cruising this thing. But you know what? Such an important story, Ivan. You cannot believe how people are going to respond to the story. Keep it going, mate.
Yeah. So anyway, the consulting pediatrician had walked in that morning, and before I'd got there, and with a wonderful bedside manner, had said to Ria, "Your child has Down syndrome."
And just for everyone that's on this call, I want you to know that the three of us, Ivan, Lee, myself, the reason that we are so tight together is I think that we have shared how many 20-gallon drums of tears together on stories like this. And they are personal stories.
Yeah.
So they're hard and they hit at the heart. And as tough as I am, I'm as soft as marshmallow, and both Lee and Ivan have seen that.
Yeah.
So I know how deep this story is. Go.
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, so he walked in and he said, your child has Down syndrome and you've got two choices. You can put her in an institution or you can keep her. And that was it. Not, is your husband coming in? Can we have a chat? Can I explain something to you? None of that, just straight, wonderful bedside manner. Really made those early days extremely difficult for Ria, especially. It was tough times. And as I say, she struggled for a long time to get over that, as I think we both did. Anyway, we knew nothing. We had been completely unprepared. Nobody had indicated that there was any potential problem. So it really came out of the blue. And as new parents, we were scrambling. We didn't know what to do, where to go, and fortunately we got a lot of help from lots of people and started to work through these things. But it was a few weeks later that this same wonderful pediatrician told us that he detected that Gail had a heart murmur. This is something that typically can affect Down's kiddies. They have heart defects, and he detected this murmur, and the indication was that it was a hole between the ventricles, and that was one of the reasons why she was struggling to feed so much. She would suck on a bottle, and she would go blue. She would run out of oxygen. So feeding times. We're very slow and very difficult, and and then we were told that we're talking just over 30 years ago. We were talking that we were told that she would need a heart operation, but we had to get her to 10 kilograms in weight before they could actually operate. Now, when you've got a child that is struggling to feed, to get it to 10 kilograms, no, sorry, not 10 kilograms. I got my numbers wrong around 6 kilograms. So to get it to 6 kilograms. Now, that might not sound like a lot for a baby, because normal babies get there pretty quickly. But in her case, it took us 10 months. It took us 10 months to get it to 6 kilograms. But she was an amazing little kid, even through those very difficult times. But then, as I say, 10 months, we finally managed to get her just to 6 kilograms, and then she had a heart up. And the technologies in those days were not the greatest. I mean, it was amazing that they could do it on a baby that size. But as you can see, it was a fairly horrendous scar. Split her sternum open completely, put a Teflon patch between the hole between the ventricles. But it was phenomenal. It was absolutely amazing that A, they could do that, and B, how fast she actually recovered. I mean, this is literally less than 2 weeks after the operation. She was a different child. She was sitting up within 3 or 4 days of the operation, and completely different child. Able to eat and drink a lot easier. Although meal times were never a quick affair with Gail. She really took her time about most things, which was fine. And it's one of her great characteristics. So there's Gail with her great grandfather. We spoke in some of our earlier sessions about Father Christmas. Gail loved the role of giving out presents. It was one of her great joys, even at a very, very young age. She loved to be the one who was giving. Yep, 3 years later, her sister was born. That's her there, Claire Marie. 4 generations. Quite amazing to be able to have 4 generations in one picture. And Gail just loved being part of the action. She was always doing something. She was always wanting to be part of something. She horse rode in her early years, which she absolutely loved. She was never afraid to take on. Yeah. Challenges of all sorts. 1998, we enrolled her in a school called Unity College. It was an interesting time because the struggle was to try and find the right environment, find the right schools. I mean, she'd gone to a mainstream nursery school, but we realized that this wasn't really going to work for her long term. So we were very fortunate. We came across this school called Unity College. Seemed to be the right environment. I remember the day we went to visit there to see whether we were going to enroll enroll her. And she walked in to the environment and immediately just started making herself at home. She basically made the decision. And the reason I put up all these different certificates and so on, as you'll see soon enough. But she was full of life and wanted to be part of everything. So she played special needs golf. She ran. She enjoyed working on computers. She danced hip hop. She loved music. And all sorts of different things. And after the first year or two at Unity College, I realized that the school, although the environment was great, it wasn't actually doing exactly what we wanted as parents for the school. So I got involved then. But there's just some more of Gail's awards that she won over the years and things that she did. And so for those who believe that participation awards are counterproductive, I challenge you to go and work in a special needs environment. Right, I see 30 minutes has flown by. I thought I was going to finish this in well under 30 minutes. So I think, I don't know, maybe we must stop there. I don't know what you guys feel.
Ivan, how do you feel?
Yeah, look, we can go through the rest, probably go a bit quicker.
We don't want to miss out. I just don't know how hard it is on you to keep going or not.
Well, the next part is a little easier, but there's a tough part towards the end again. But yeah, so we can head on. I'll if that's okay with folks. So what's the feeling?
Happy for our side.
All right. Yeah, so from a very young age, Claire-Marie knew there was something different about her big sister. And in many respects, she became the big sister from a very young age. And, that translated into the rest of her life with her peers. She always seemed to be the one that her friends came to for advice, for guidance. Yeah, she excelled at school, quite amazing. That was her matric year. With all the awards that she won. And yeah, at the age of 17, she decided, because she was young for her class, she decided she wasn't interested in going to varsity despite being the Dutch scholar of her matric year, and started to work at our local church, where she's been working ever since. She's become the sort of church organizer, church administrator, general facilitator. She does just about everything. And as I say, she started that straight out of school. In fact, she'd been involved in organizing church activities and things from about the age of 13. She'd put together events and exercises for the youngsters in the church environment from a very, very early age. She's also jumped out of an airplane. So she's got a bit of adventure spirit in her as well. And she's incredibly creative. She's got a number of side hustles. She illustrates, she does fancy writing and all those sorts of good things. She loves baking. She's part of a specialty coffee business. She develops websites. So she does a whole host of different things. So my first business was a massive shock to my system. I learned that I was definitely not a natural salesperson. Not one of my core skills in those days. I was very technical. In fact, I didn't particularly like salespeople because I always felt that they oversold, especially from a technical point of view. But I chose a career. Yeah, look at Trevor. Yeah, I chose to move into the sales environment and find out very quickly that it was a huge learning curve for myself. And my timing was also pretty lousy. As I said, started my business in March 89. May 89, we got married. 1990, the training and development market basically shut down. And in April 1990, Gail was born. So, it was it was some pretty poor timing on my part, but it was a huge learning curve for me. And in many ways, I think a great experience builder. My first year in business, I think my gross revenue was about 4,000 Rand. So for the entire year, so it wasn't a big success. And towards the end of 1990, I decided to get back into computers. So I started Ivan Anderson Computer Consultants. Very original. We were developing customized integrated business software using a rapid application development tool called Rascal. I started very green in this. I didn't know much about business. Certainly had developed a few programs, but nothing like it before. So I sort of thrust myself into the role of developing these complicated systems, knowing very little about business and in fact very little about developing software. And was amazed by the input that I got from business owners and business leaders. If you just ask the right questions, people will quite happily give you the answers. And that's the way I learned. That's the way I developed myself and my business. 1995, we formed a company called SI Systems that was between myself and my business partner, Steve Ashford. 1997, we formed a company called BITS. Bringing some additional partners on. That was stood for Business Information Technology Training and Systems. In 1998, we put that together with some other partners and formed TSF Service and Solutions Firm. 1999, we formed a company called Hammer Holdings that comprised those four companies. TSF was the software company. XM Solutions was a hardware networking company. Twin Consulting was an education and training company, specifically in the manufacturing environment, and Capstone Investments was a property investments company. In 1999, I met Trevor Nell in the inner circle, introduced via a fax machine, believe it or not, and started because I was looking at how we could grow these businesses and network, and out of the blue came this fax from this chap called Trevor Nell, and so I started going to Inner Circle, and that's when Trevor and I got to know each other. In 2000, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I decided to get a little bit more involved in Unity College, so I've been asked to join the board of governors of Unity College, and I told them under the only condition that I was prepared to do it was if they made me chairman, which they did, much to my surprise. And we did a lot of work. We did a lot of work in revamping that environment over the next 8 years. I was chairman. We built it up to a school that really, I believe, delivered value to the learners. A very challenging environment, both from a financial and an educational point of view, but an amazing environment. So, yeah, that was just a picture of some of the families and the students that were there. 2003, I dismantled Hammer Holdings, retained TSF and reverted to systems development. 2005, developed TradeMaker's concept with Trevor. 2005 onwards, we developed many other business concepts, Murdoch, MDI, which is $1 Million Initiatives, Wisdoms, and others. 2008 and 2009, we developed Community 100 Empowered with Trevor, and that's where that started, in a township, in the dirt, drawing diagrams with a chicken bone. That was Trevor. It was originally called Orange Spaza, but we changed it later to Community 100 Empowered. Now, that's a whole nother story. But we had our newest business partner joined us there. It was Taylor. And that's also a whole nother story. You'll have to ask Trevor about that at some point in time. Too long to go into now. But Taylor travelled with us for many years. In those early days of developing Community 100 Empowered and other business operations, she was our constant companion. And I think her first word was strategic alliance, was it, Trevor? Something like that. It was, yeah. 2013, we met Lee Harrison, and launched Wisdoms into the corporate market. 2016, 2017, met Jasper Klutti and launched the 4As Chamber. 2020, met Corona COVID-19 and launched Wisdoms Chats. And then met all of you. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Go back a little bit. As I said, I was going to bounce around. 2008, I bought my first digital camera. As I said to you earlier, I loved my photography. Started taking some pictures from the great to the minute. So, yeah, and then 2016, tragedy strikes. Gail came to visit on a Sunday. She's not feeling 100%, but insists she wants to go back to Logwood. She was living in a place called Logwood Village. That was a place for handicapped adults. Absolutely loved it, thrived there. A lot of the awards that you saw, she won there. She became part of the leadership there. She matured incredibly. On the Tuesday lunchtime, we took her to the doctor. By Tuesday evening, we had to rush her through the casualty. She was comatose.
No, a terrible time, absolutely terrible time, a shock to everyone. But again, everybody's life has a story, and this is an incredible story. And you've got to push through, boy.
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, so that was what we found out. Something that could have been prevented had we known, but yeah, it was not an easy time, as you can imagine.
Ivan, this is an incredible memorial to Gail. I feel like we are really honoring her life, and just so appreciate you telling us about her and giving us a glimpse into her incredible life and the incredible life that you gave her. And just look at those smiles. She's one incredible person. Thank you for sharing with us.
And Lee, to think of Ria all the time, eh?
All the time, yeah.
The effect on a family of this, absolutely incredible. And for me, what this story does, again, for the more than 60 odd days that we've been discussing individual stories, and all of us have been shedding little tears for the stories that each and every single individual has. You just never know the story of the individual that you are walking past in that street. We've almost once a week, that for me has been what has come out of this. For you, Lee, for myself, just knowing Ivan and Ria and Claire Marie and the strength of this family going through this is just remarkable. You know what, Ivan? You can have Springbok colors, you can have Rhodesian colors, you can have Zimbabwe colors, you've got international colors. You know, we're going to create our own certificate here, Lee. This family needs, I think we've got to create a wisdom's blazer. And you know the right guy to actually do this is Guy Danes, because he's an international and he can actually design a blazer for this presentation. Guy, come on board.
I'm here. Trevor, I'm a shocking designer, trust me. I don't think you guys would like my designs. A, it would take too long. B, it would be so out there, it would be frightening. But one can give it a go, you know? One's up for a challenge. What the hell, eh? I'll have to call in some extra resources, so I'll try and do that. I'll need to get the Wisdom logo from Ivan. Ivan, will you pop me the Wisdom logo?
Yeah, well,
I just want to doff my cap to the Anderson family, but I'm not doffing it too high. I don't want Mpumalelo to see I don't have any hair on my head.
Well, I'm going to pick it up here and just to say thank you, Ivan. Incredibly brave. I really, yeah, to risk the way you have and to share the way you have. It's not only touched us, but it's also just given us a sense of the reality of life that we all face in one way or another. And I think you've had more than your fair share. And so thank you for what the person that you and Ria, I think that's what Trevor's saying, that, you know, the people that you've become through this shines through. And so thank you so much. And we all now go away for the rest of the week, kind of, I think having some perspective and some reality checks for what we're dealing with in our own lives. And tomorrow is a lucky packet. We'll just do a pop, you know, wherever anybody is, however we are. I think we can maybe respond a little bit to Ivan, but we'll just see what emerges tomorrow rather than having a theme. So let's just pick up where people are and we'll carry on from there tomorrow. So Ivan, I think you need a tea and a piece of chocolate cake.
Ivan, and I'm sending you a cigarette from my black market, so you don't have to smoke it.
Yeah, I'm not. If it's made from grass and not tobacco, maybe that's the right way to go. Yeah. Okay, folks. Thanks so much for listening. Have a fantastic day further, and look forward to chatting to you again tomorrow. Go well.
Be good.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.